Football season's almost here, and DraftKings, the leader in one-week fantasy sports, is giving you a shot to be crowned the first-ever fantasy football billionaire. Draft the perfect lineup week 1, and you could win $1 billion. Just use code HUDDLE to play in DraftKings' free Week 1 contest with $100,000 in total guaranteed prizes. And if you draft the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. It's free. Why wouldn't you try? DraftKings.com. Code HUDDLE. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Greg Cody of the Miami Herald in with us today. Ron McGill of Zoo Miami will be here in 2 hours. The Marty Party, 2.5 hours. Marty Smith will join us. I just saw on the television here Kevin Pillar's catch last night for the Toronto Blue Jays center fielder. I don't know that I've ever seen before what I'm about to describe if you have not seen the catch, which is a guy leaves his feet and he's not on the warning track. And by the time he comes up with the out, his head is hitting the wall. I don't think I've ever seen that before, where Kevin Pillar left his feet and he wasn't on the warning track. And by the time he finished sliding on the warning track, after catching the ball, his head was hitting the wall.
You had that great catch that Jim Edmonds made, but you're right. It didn't happen exactly like that.
No, yeah, Jim Edmonds' catch was a better catch. I just don't think I've ever seen that. Put that on the poll, Guillermo. Have you ever seen that before? Have you ever seen that before? Yes or no? Matt Stafford is making the news today because he's getting so much money. It's 5 years, $135 million, and we've reached an interesting place in football where that right now is the going rate for what I'm about to say, which is if your quarterback's not the problem, but your quarterback's also not the solution, that's the going rate now. Because I don't know what you do if you're in that circumstance as the Detroit Lions, but I would be tempted to see what I could get for Matthew Stafford because somebody needs that. Somebody needs a quarterback who's competent, but you're not going to win anything with that quarterback. That quarterback's not going to win you anything.
Well, is it Matthew Stafford's fault or the surrounding talent? Because that team has made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years.
Okay,
man.
Well, wait a minute. But the thing that you say, first of all, it's a quarterback who's never won a playoff game.
Right.
It's a quarterback whose stats against winning teams are godforsaken. Like, sure. He's 1-25 on the road against winning teams that end with a winning record. Mm-hmm. And I believe the stat was 5-46 against teams that end with a winning record. You can't, that's all there is in the playoffs, is teams with a winning record.
Sure, I understand.
Cannot win with that quarterback. And so when people say, well, is it the team? Man, you guys love to give the credit to the quarterback when he wins. Why are you protecting him when he loses? Like, you guys love to do that. You love to give all the credit to Brady when he wins. You're not saying team sport then.
Right. I'm not protecting Matthew Stafford. It's just where we've arrived. And as a Jet fan, I'd love to have Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford might be, if he played for the Jets, the greatest quarterback in Jets history.
But that's what I'm saying,
Joe
though.
Namath.
But if you're in the Lions' predicament, what do you do? Because I look for a team like the Jets, and I'm like, he's 29. You want him?
Right.
What are you going to give me for him? Because I don't want to spend the next 5 years of Stafford doing that, being okay, but I'm not going to beat Aaron Rodgers. I'm not as good as Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not beating Aaron Rodgers. And that's not, and it doesn't matter where Aaron Rodgers is in the division, he's going to come chase me down and beat me, and he's going to tell me so. It doesn't matter what kind of lead I get to in the division, he's going to tell me, hey, relax, I got this. I'm Aaron Rodgers. I got Matthew Stafford in my division. I'll chase him down like a lion chases down a jaguar.
But you don't think a team can win big with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback?
No.
Or is it just that particular team?
No, the team.
If you put him on a better team, could they win?
No, what you're requiring.
If he was on the Broncos, would they win?
A team can win with Matthew Stafford as the quarterback if your team has the outlier of the Trent Dilfer defense. But that's always a bad thing to bank on. He can't beat good teams. Like, that sample's large enough. Matthew Stafford's been playing a long time, and he never wins against the good teams. He can't win a playoff game. He can't win a playoff game. Like, so this is where we are, and people are calling me a hater for pointing out what are the facts. I feel like I'm not hating that the man got his money. I'm marveling at the conundrum. If you've got Andy Dalton, you're not good enough.
Right.
So what do you do?
You pay him. I'd pay him. I mean, he's 29 years old, and I disagree with you. I think if you have the right team around him, that potentially he could win and take you deep into the playoffs. He almost did a couple of years ago. They were 11-5. Dan had
Calvin Johnson quit, man.
I understand.
He quit.
Okay, it's because of Matthew Stafford?
But I mean, all of it.
Right.
He had Calvin Johnson, and Calvin Johnson quit.
Right.
Like, you think Calvin Johnson would be quitting if Aaron Rodgers was a quarterback?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't think so.
I mean, you're probably right, but I don't know. I'm just not ready to blame that or everything on Matthew Stafford. The only good thing they have is Matthew Stafford. Okay, well, there you go, but I'm wondering why that one's happening. I'm curious as to why that one's happening, because I swear you guys are always doing this one to me. Whenever a quarterback wins, you're telling me it's only the quarterback. And yeah, a lot of things go into winning. But he is not the solution to winning. That's been proven, correct? Yes.
Stugotz, Drew Brees wins games. His defense is terrible. He goes and he wins games. He wins playoff games. He wins the Super Bowl when and his defense doesn't help him.
I guess it's been proven. I'm just saying, for a dreadful organization who really never does anything good, at least 2 out of the last 3 years, that quarterback has gotten them to the playoffs. Like, that's terrible.
You overpay for a guy like Matthew Stafford because you look around and you see 8, 10, maybe 12 teams in the league that would kill for Matthew Stafford because there's bad quarterbacking in the NFL right now in the bottom third of the league. So by that measure, Stafford is great, but he's not going to make your team great. I agree with you. He can't solve Green Bay. He's just a quarterback. He's Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers is better than he is.
He's better, but look, Matt Stafford is going to have prolific numbers. He's going to have a career where 5 years from now, somebody's going to be going, he's got a chance for the Hall of Fame. I don't think he does, but his numbers are going to speak for that.
Well, but this is the part that's problematic, okay? What I'm about to say is the most problematic part of all of it, because we could sit here and argue whether or not Matt Stafford is good or bad, and we can use wins or we could use other numbers if you want. But this is, to me, the problem. In a salary-capped sport, you cannot have the Patriots not feeling the need to give Tom Brady the max, and the Detroit Lions are not getting value at quarterback. They're not. You could say you got to pay him and you got to keep him, but they are not getting value at quarterback in a salary cap sport.
Right.
You can't have that.
Well, what's Brady making?
But what I'm saying is you give all the money to Joe Flacco and look at what the Ravens have become. The Lions aren't going to get any better because now they've just paid a quarterback that no longer represents value. So they can't get better. Where and how are they going to get better? Where are they going to go get the money? So this is the conundrum to me in the NFL. But do you? Because when Cody's saying there are 12 teams in the league that would kill for Stafford, go make them kill. Go make them kill for Stafford. Go around and ask.
But I'm not certain. Hey, I'm not certain they would kill. I'm not certain if the Lions called the Jets and said, "Hey, Matthew Stafford's available." The Jets would say, "Man, we're more than a Matthew Stafford away."
The Broncos might.
Well, the Broncos might, and I don't know if they ever reach out to him or not.
I shop him though. That's the reason I cannot live in this purgatory of Andy Dalton, of Joe Flacco, of Alex Smith. They're not good enough. You need too many other things to be right about your team. They're not the answer. There are certain quarterbacks in that league who are the answer, and I believe those are the guys you pay. And they're not Tannehill, and they're not Dalton, and they're not Stafford.
But if you make the team,
and they're not Flacco either.
If you make the team around him better, then all of a sudden you don't have a quarterback. You have, they haven't had a great running back since Barry Sanders. Their defense wasn't particularly good, even when they had Ndamukong Suh. So you got to do something right. And if they think Stafford is a superstar,
Mike, I know what you're going to come in here. Flacco at the going rate. Okay, I know he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I know he won a Super Bowl.
You can't win with Flacco.
No, Flacco at the going rate.
At the going rate, though. But, Dan, you have to show your fan base something, right? Because they lost out on Sue. Calvin Johnson walked away. There's all kinds of complications with how he walked away, and maybe money is owed to him. And so you signed the quarterback, who's very, very good, who's gotten you to the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years, and he's 29 years old.
There was a 17-game stretch where Peter Schrager, who covers the NFL, was saying Matthew Stafford's the best quarterback and made a very compelling case for it. Matthew Stafford, everybody thought he was going to nosedive after Calvin Johnson left, and he was very good. He carried that team. I understand he hasn't won a playoff game, but how many of those playoff games did you think they could actually win? They were underdogs.
Yes or no, they turned him into Stafford. When you guys are talking about Stafford being very good, didn't they turn him into average yard per pass guy who's super careful?
He became more careful, yeah. But with Calvin Johnson, you're also apt to take more chances down the field. He doesn't necessarily have the wide receiver skill set.
I find it to be an interesting discussion, and what I wonder is, because what Stugotz is saying is the tact that they've been taking in Copycat League. Pay Dalton, pay Tannehill, pay Stafford. I wonder when someone's going to flip that, because the team that did was Denver with Cutler. And then years later, they got good enough. Denver did it with Cutler. They're like, get out of here. And everybody was like, why are they doing that? And the Bears jumped on it. the way somebody like the Bears would jump on Stafford now if you were because the Bears. What did the Bears trade? The Bears traded no, but it was a couple of first-round picks, wasn't it?
There were picks, and Kyle Orton was
like
part
that.
of it.
If that's what you could get for Stafford, you don't do it. Now I don't know if you can get that for Stafford, but I would think that maybe if you can get it for Cutler, you could get it for a 29-year-old Stafford. I would have been shopping him all over the league and saying, "How desperate are you? You guys want a quarterback? Let's see. Here, you can have this one."
But you want the Broncos' first-round picks if they have Matthew Stafford because that's going to be deep in the first round. I mean, that's what you're getting in return for a guy that a lot of people would say is a franchise quarterback.
I know, but Green Bay got Aaron Rodgers deep in the first round. Like, you could get a good quarterback.
But they already have a good
and the
quarterback.
Browns have spent 20 years with high draft picks not getting one.
I know, but now who do they have? Now, you tell me what's the better situation. What would make Detroit happier? If I told them right now, you traded Stafford, but you drafted Kaiser. You've got Kaiser now.
Yeah, after 20 years.
I know, but what I'm saying is, of course, you got to be in the draft. Yes, they've done it poorly. Yes, they've done it poorly at quarterback.
I'd rather have Stafford than 2 low first-round picks.
Okay, because Chicago traded for Cutler, has been bad in all those years since, and Denver won the Super Bowl. Trading Cutler, I mean, eventually they won the Super
Peyton
Bowl.
Manning kind of fell to the lap.
I know, It took them a while, but I'm saying the team that they built for Peyton Manning was ready, at least in part, because they traded Cutler and started building that way. And like I want to see the team that's going to do that next with one of these Andy Dalton types.
But now, where's Denver at quarterback? They don't have a long-term answer at quarterback, whereas Detroit does. I mean, quarterback, look, Tom Brady's 40. If Detroit thinks they have another 8 or 9 great years out of Matthew Stafford, then the going rate they just paid isn't dumb.
You're kind of doing like, hey, you can find a quarterback, figure it out afterwards. It's the most important position in sports. You can't just find a quarterback.
I know, but Stugotz,
I mean, they have a quarterback.
I know, but Stugotz, even your godforsaken Jets made it to the AFC Championship game twice with Mark Sanchez. You could find somebody by putting them in that position.
But the Jets had one of those kind of defenses. I'm not saying it was the Ravens' defense, but it was a really, really good defense.
I mean, I don't know. So you guys are sitting here arguing on behalf of Matthew Stafford being the highest paid player in football is sane. That's what just happened this first
No, it's just for now. It's until the next guy gets signed.
I know, but I'm just saying, you guys, like, that's what just happened on this show.
It doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel right. It seems ridiculous when it comes out of my mouth, but it's just for now. It's until Rodgers' deal is up and Breeze's deal is up and Kirk Cousins next year.
Kirk Cousins might end up being
get the money
higher
too.
paid.
Yeah, well, but that's the other thing.
Like
he doesn't
Mike
beat
Conley
winning
became the
teams
highest.
either.
Mike Conley was the highest paid NBA basketball player for a period there.
Schefter said if Cousins has a good year on the free market next year, he'll be looking at $30 million per season. Kirk Cousins.
I know, but what I'm asking you, I think what I'm asking you guys to do is you guys keep trusting football because football, copycat scared football seems like they know what they're doing. And what I'm telling you is the blueprint there is flawed. What I'm telling you is once you get to the Stafford threshold, you're not good enough. And you don't need to be making that person the highest paid player in the sport. You need to start shopping that person. There needs to be a change of the thinking.
But don't you think you have PTSD if you're that organization? You were so bad before he got there, and I believe you've made 3 playoff appearances, all wild card road games. I don't want to go back to that, man. I'm a fan.
Right.
I'll take the playoffs 2 out of 3 years.
You can argue he's a top 10 quarterback coming into his prime.
You guys are doing some fraudulence with those playoffs, those arbitrary playoff appearances.
Well, do you remember a couple of years ago they were 11-5, Dan? They should have beaten Dallas in that playoff game, and they got robbed. It was a bad call. It was a terrible. I can't remember the exact call, but it was a terrible call. They got robbed. I mean, I didn't know you were this passionate about Matthew Stafford. I now have a new guy and a new team to root for because I so hope that he has a great season and they go to the Super Bowl. I'm not even rooting for the Jets. Why would I root for the Jets this year? I am a Lions fan. Greg, you in?
Oh, totally in.
All right, go Detroit.
To find us on a station near you, visit ESPN.com/ESPN Radio and click the station locator tab. Dan Le Batard.
Pot calling him Kettle Black, as my grandma used to say. Nellie Doogie.
Stugotz.
Nellie Doogie is your grandmother's name?
Used to be. Still is, I guess.
It is.
But it's on a headstone now.
Will always be your name, Greg.
What kind of name is that?
It's an odd name. I believe it's a French name. We were of French ancestry, which I don't like to talk about a lot.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I am embarrassed after all of these years that I, who continue to consider myself a decent learner, have not yet learned when and how my tone makes me deeply unlikable on the radio. So I am volunteering a $5 fine for the last segment before anyone has called me out on it. And I'm going to see if we can discuss this a little more, or I can discuss this a little bit more reasonably as it comes to Matthew Stafford, because I've legitimately been surprised by the response in this room where Stugotz and Greg Cody think, yep, highest paid player, that's fine. Stafford's a good quarterback.
Right.
So I'm legitimately surprised by that when he is 5-46 against teams that end up with a winning record. He's 1-25 on the road against teams that have a winning record. And you're sitting there during the break making the argument to me about how he almost won a playoff game at Dallas. And that almost is the only almost in his playoff resume of almost playoff wins.
Right. Got robbed in the fourth quarter of that game, a game they probably should have won. You put $20 in there instead of $5. Is that for? Are you thinking maybe there's going to be future fines here because your tone?
I'll get changed in a little bit.
Okay.
But what I want to ask you guys is this, because I'll see if I'll find a better connection point with you on this. Because I suspect I will on what I'm about to say. Because the big divider between fans and athletes tends to be money. And so when I ask you this, if Brady in a salary cap sport where you have to find winning in the margins because they're not allowing you to have an advantage with money, if the key is to find value, if the Patriots don't have any overpaid players, they never overpay a player. You will never hear of the Patriots doing this. Never. The Patriots don't do this. They don't make Stafford the highest paid quarterback in the league when we're all looking at it and saying, how can he be the highest paid player in the league? How can Mike Conley be how can Joe Flacco? The Patriots will never do that. So in a league where Tom Brady is taking the discount, why can't Matthew Stafford sign for a sum of money that allows them to build around him when he knows good and well over the last 10 years that what he's had isn't good enough? Why can't he sign? And I'm not the one who's ever telling others to take less money, but in a salary cap sport where Brady is doing that, Stafford has to be highest paid? Like, that doesn't happen by accident that it becomes highest paid. That becomes set the market. That's become set the market for the union. But to me, it gets in the way of them being able to build around him in the future.
But at some point, I might be wrong. I don't think that I am. At some point, Brady signed a big contract. Now he continues to restructure it so they can bring in other guys. And who's to say that Matthew Stafford wouldn't do the same if asked to do it?
My point is that in Tom Brady, the Patriots somehow have value. You cannot argue to me today that Matthew Stafford and the Lions have value at the quarterback position. You can argue if you want that they've got a good quarterback.
Right, that'd be hard to.
But you cannot argue that they have value in a salary cap sport.
It's easy for Brady to play at a discount because he's trading that for championship rings. You know, it's the same thing we see in the NBA where Durant maybe signs for a little bit less because he knows he's got an excellent chance to win a championship ring, just like Brady does every damn season. Otherwise, I don't fault anybody for getting as much money as they can. You know, if I'm offered a raise, I'm not going to say, you know what, give me half of that raise and give somebody else more money. It just doesn't work in the real world.
Man, I've done that all my life.
It only works in sports if you're playing.
I've done it with every contract I've negotiated.
Thank you.
Seriously. I've done it with every last contract I've negotiated. And we're certainly not talking about the stratosphere that these guys are in. And we're not talking about a salary cap sport either,
right?
Where by taking more of the money, you're actively getting in the way of your chances of winning when you've never won a playoff game not taking the most money.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But then you're acting like you can't win. I mean, Brady is getting paid. He's going to get paid north of $20 million this year. He's the 14th highest player in the NFL. Derek Carr, the Raiders have a good team around him. Derek Carr he's the second highest paid player in the league.
Derek Carr is younger. Derek Carr is still on the rise.
I mean, Stafford's 29.
I know, but Derek Carr is what? What's Derek Carr? 24? 25?
He's younger.
Stafford has been better the last 2 years than in his entire career.
Carr's 26.
The Patriots did somebody to a really high contract for their position. They did it for 1 year with that mercenary, Darrelle Revis. It worked out for them, but they got out of that business real quick.
And the Jets picked it up.
Well, they didn't. They got Revis, but they didn't make him the highest paid player in the sport. Did they make him the highest paid player at his position?
At his position, I believe.
Did they?
Yeah. They won a Super Bowl with him.
Right. Well, one of the things that's interesting here that's tough to sort of chew on is the Lions are never going to be the one who take the bold move of trading Stafford because you've got too many jobs tied to him. You know, the management needs to win now can't take 3 years to build a new quarterback because they're all going to lose their jobs. That's one of the things that's in play here that makes it difficult for Marvin Lewis to trade Andy Dalton. Mm-hmm. It makes it difficult for Adam Gase to trade Ryan Tannehill because you don't have footing that will allow you to take a couple of 4-12s and keep your job.
The Patriots signed Revis to a 2-year deal. The first year was $12 million, which is a very high salary at that position, but fairly reasonable considering what the second year was, $20 million. And I'm not even sure why they put that option in there because obviously there was no chance they were picking it up.
Don Le Batard.
Which are we making less of today? Nellie's or Bert's?
Stugotz. Although Nellie Furtado, she's with a Y. My Nellie, my Nana was Nellie, which is the way to go if you're a Nellie. See, IEs look down on Ys throughout the name kingdom.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Stugotz is saying that the Celtics got to hit the Cavs with a COB by the end of the day, close the business, or we're going to start taking our pieces back.
Yeah, this one has a wrinkle. COB, they need to do it right now. Danny Ainge needs to get on the phone.
Oh, so it's not close the business. It's right now. So wait a minute. So it's not COB. It can't be COB if it's right now.
Well, I think most people would say 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. is COB, is close of business. What I'm saying is at 5 o'clock, Danny Ainge needs to tell the Cavaliers the entire trade is off. And just to add a little wrinkle, he needs to call them and tell them also, hey, Gilbert, at 3 o'clock, I start taking pieces back. 1 piece per hour until 5 o'clock.
And he has to do it like that, refer to him by only his last name?
Yes. So at 3 o'clock, I'm taking Jay Crowder back. At 4 o'clock, I'm taking the draft pick back. And at 5, he's just got to start taking everything back.
Okay.
That's what he has to do. 4 o'clock, he's taking Isaiah back.
I really don't think you can do that. The league office has already approved the trade. You're just making stuff up right now.
You know, the Cavaliers knew what they were getting. They were getting a guy with a bum hip. What they really wanted was the draft pick. They got the draft pick, okay? Who cares about Isaiah Thomas's hip? Who cares? You want him healthy for the playoffs. If he doesn't come back until 40 games into the regular season, who cares? What you wanted was the pick, and they got the pick. Don't be stupid. And good luck selling your fan base on this. We lost the pick. Now we got to bring Kyrie back. Kyrie and LeBron hate each other. LeBron's leaving after next season, and Kyrie's leaving in 2 seasons. I mean, complete disaster.
The hip's
COB.
The hip's a little problematic, Stugotz, because he's in a contract year.
Right.
And so he can't really have surgery, so he's going to be playing on a hip that's bad, and you're not getting the Isaiah Thomas that you had last year.
Right.
So
it's the Cavs' problem, though.
Okay, but but he hasn't passed the physical.
Well, he hasn't passed their physical, and the Cavs knew what they were getting, and really what they wanted was they're asking for Jason Tatum now. Get out of here.
Okay.
Danny Ainge, don't give them another thing. Tell them at 3 o'clock. Right. Every hour starting at 3, you're taking a piece away.
But you can't do that.
Well, I think you can.
No, once you take one, what are you doing? This is why.
I'm doing business, man. This is how you do business.
Stugotz.
You put some pressure on.
All right, so this is what we've got going on right now. What you're doing.
What I'm doing is C.O.B. That's what I'm doing. And at 3 o'clock, once per hour, I'm taking a piece away.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Yep.
Thank you.
So let me just see if I have this straight.
Okay.
So the Cavs are sitting there, and now Jay Crowder's gone. And the Cavs are just going, oh, that hurts.
Yep.
Let me wait till 4 o'clock. Then, now the pick's gone. Oh, and so now they're just going to end up with Isaiah Thomas and his bum hip at 5 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great plan.
Start pulling pieces away.
All right.
At 3.
All right. You can't do that. Other than that, it's a great idea.
C.O.B.
Danny
Ainge, get on the phone, and I left out a dot there after the B. Get on the phone with Dan Gilbert right now, or whoever the general manager is. I don't remember his name because they got to get rid of the guy that LeBron and Kyrie like. Right. But get on the phone with that guy and tell him 3 o'clock. Yeah. That's it, or I start pulling pieces
3
away.
3 o'clock, this is what you do. 3 o'clock, you're Danny Ainge, you just bark into the phone.
Enough.
Corn.
Right.
And when they say, what do you mean corn? Cabinet.
Yeah.
Cabinet. Mm-hmm. Just scream into the phone.
I mean, they just noticed now that Isaiah Thomas's hip he's on a bum hip.
Yes, they noticed it when they ran him through an MRI.
Oh, yes. They had no idea, but they didn't watch the playoffs last year. They were playing him.
He didn't pass the physical.
They played him in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Then they stopped playing him when he hurt himself.
C.O.B.
It's just such a great argument.
Annul it.
Don't book your travel. Go ahead and make the next joke that Mike whispered in your ear. Go ahead,
okay.
do it.
It's
Just
okay.
do it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Do it.
I don't remember it. I have no retention.
Don't book your travel without heading to Upside. Save yourself lots of cash on flights and hotels. Plus, when you sign up, you'll get a gift. Tell them about it, Gotts.
3:00 p.m. ET.
Dan Le Batard.
You want me to get real?
Stugotz.
I'll get real.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get in touch with the show anytime to the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at Le Batard Show, at Stugotz790, at Greg Cody. Nothing makes a summer birthday or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for just $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. It's a great deal. Check them out today. 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
Texter writes in, how do you idiots think it's interesting to hear staffers doing karaoke? I don't think it's interesting. We do that to point out how bad the lyrics are to what has been the number one song in America for a longer period than anyone's ever seen a song be number one in America.
Someone thinks that you think that's interesting?
Yeah, I don't think it's interesting. What I do think is interesting is the conversation that was taking place during the break where Cody was talking about how he liked that moment for Sharapova yesterday, beating the number 2 player in the world after missing 2 years. And Stugotz was yelling at him like she did something wrong. Why was she being celebrated? She's weeping. She's getting a standing ovation. She's a nice story. And what I wanted to ask you guys and the audience, Guillermo, put this on the poll. What's the worst stigma? Steroids or recreational drugs? What's the worst stigma for athletes?
Wow.
PEDs or recreational drugs? Because I think I might argue in a puritanical, moralistic America that is not quite like Miami, that most people have more of a problem with marijuana and cocaine, even though what Sharapova did is impinging upon the integrity of the sport by cheating. And I think somehow the moralizing in sports is such. Am I wrong?
Well, in Sharapova's case, I think it's a gray area. I mean, she was taking a medication, and I thought 2 years was a very stiff sentence, factoring in her age. You know, she's not in her prime. She's getting a little older for women's tennis, and it was a stiff sentence. So for her to come back from that, I think is pretty heartwarming.
But, Greg, she was taking medication, and tennis said you can't take this anymore. It was on their banned substance list, and she claimed that she was the only one who didn't get the memo. And she continued to take it, and it can be construed as a performance enhancer, what it is that she was taking.
Cody, this is the one that you're believing? Like, I feel like at this point, when it comes to steroid uses and PEDs, we don't believe anybody.
But she got this rousing ovation last. That was a great match. I mean, the match was wildly entertaining.
We don't believe anybody's excuse for I wasn't actually using, I was ignorant. We never believe anybody.
I was just thinking last night, Greg, this is the only thought I had as I watched that match unfold, okay? Would Serena Williams get similar treatment? From the fans, from the media, from everyone. If she did, that's what I was thinking last night.
Whoa!
Now imagine she's white.
Whoa!
That's what I was doing.
Stugotz did that?
Yeah, I did.
Stugotz who cannonballs out of every race conversation?
I must admit it felt strange what I was feeling and thinking last night, but
Whoa!
That's what I felt. I mean, Greg, do you think Serena gets the similar treatment?
I think Serena's very low.
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cody on ESPN Radio.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Football season's almost here, and DraftKings, the leader in one-week fantasy sports, is giving you a shot to be crowned the first-ever fantasy football billionaire. Draft the perfect lineup week 1, and you could win $1 billion. Just use code HUDDLE to play in DraftKings' free Week 1 contest with $100,000 in total guaranteed prizes. And if you draft the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. It's free. Why wouldn't you try? DraftKings.com. Code HUDDLE. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Dan Le Batard.
Stugotz is kind of morally bankrupt.
Stugotz.
That's fair.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. Ron McGill, noon Eastern, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Rockets owner Leslie Alexander donated $4 million to the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund, started by Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. The team announced the Astros ownership also agreed to donate $4 million to the relief efforts. Outfielder Yoenis Cespedes will miss the remainder of the season because of a right hamstring strain, the New York Mets announced on Monday. And finally, former Eagle and Congressman Jon Runyan has been driving an Uber for the last 9 months. Runyan made more than $40 million during his playing career. He insists this isn't about making money. He's doing it because sometimes he gets bored.
That dude's as big a human being as I've ever stood next to. I could not believe the size of that man when I stood next to him.
For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. You have said forever that Kim Bokemper, former Dolphin defensive lineman, is the biggest man you've ever stood next to. Runyan replaces him?
Shaq. I've never stood next to Yao Ming, and Shaq is the biggest human being I've stood next to. And Brian McKinney is right there. But Runyan is in that conversation. That dude, when I stood next to him, I don't ever feel small. I mean, I'm 6'3", 245 pounds. Like, I don't ever feel small, except when I stood next to Jon Runyan and Shaquille O'Neal.
I agree with you on Shaq. I mean, I'll never forget the first time after he joined the Heat that I'm in the locker room looking at his empty shoes. Just the shoe.
Yeah, size 22 or 23.
Unbelievable.
I mean, Runyan is 6'7", 350.
Right. McKinney, too. McKinney's in that area. One of the things we learned, shockingly, during the break, Guillermo, put this on the poll, is Greg Cody self-absorbed? We learned during the break that Greg Cody has an amazing blind spot when it comes to his own self-awareness. Because Greg Cody, I was making fun, Greg Cody takes more selfies than an Instagram model. And so I was making fun of him. And he was wondering, why do I do that? And I'm like, because nobody loves Cody more than Cody loves Cody. And so we went around the room and asked everybody, is Cody self-involved? And they all looked at me like, what are you talking about? Of course. Cody's like, really? I am?
I don't think of myself like that.
Mm-hmm. Except you just sit here, and the only things you laugh at during the show are when your voice comes up on the rejoins. You sit there and smile and nod, and you're so happy that it's your voice. Yeah. And he does that specifically to keep you in the right mood.
Some of those rejoins are great. They're fantastic.
Right. Yeah, when you're that deep in, you don't see it. Like, Greg is so deep in on loving himself that sometimes it blinds you, and I think you're blinded by it. Take it from a man who knows.
Well, Greg, he was just asking, during the break, well, if I'm so self-involved, why do the texters seem to like me so much? And I'm like, because you're in on the joke, because you don't take yourself seriously. We were actually talking about the idea of what would Trump buy himself in approval rating if any of you thought that he could ever laugh at himself?
Oh, it would buy him so much, man.
Like, can you imagine a scenario where Trump would make a mistake, be embarrassed, and laugh about his mistake? Can you even imagine that somewhere within his personality construct?
Absolutely not. But if he did, it would help him out enormously. Or if he did it from the start, like right when he was elected, can you believe that I'm the president of the free world? If he tweeted something like that out, it'd be funny.
Yeah, because self-involved without a sense of humor about it is not quite as likable.
And there's so many opportunities he's had to be self-deprecating. Like the one time at that summit where that famous meme showed him elbowing past another world leader. That would have been a perfect chance for him to make fun of himself for doing that.
Well, who's like that? Who in sports could benefit from that the most? The idea of it. Who in sports could benefit the most from... You don't think that person is fundamentally capable of laughing at themselves.
Wow, that's a good one.
Belichick, maybe?
Well, yeah, but you hear all the stories that Belichick does laugh at himself.
Well, but it's not even that, though. With Belichick, he doesn't need it.
Nick Saban?
Right. But those two guys don't need it.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
What do they need it for? They're winning, and everyone acknowledges their greatness.
But people don't like them. A lot of people don't like Nick Saban in particular.
Okay, fair enough. People don't like them, and maybe they buy themselves something, but people respect them. There is a respect extended to those two based on their excellence that cannot be disputed. So who in sports would actually benefit in terms of Q rating, popularity, in terms of likability from just being – I thought T.O. could have benefited from that. Mm-hmm. I thought T.O. in his career, if he could just smile and wink at some of the stuff he was doing instead of always being defiant about it.
LeBron maybe?
No, He's already at the top of the sport. He doesn't necessarily need it. He's kind of like Saban. I would say Kevin Durant.
Well, you saw that Foot Locker commercial, right, with Ndamukong Suh and Boogie Cousins. And Foot Locker is making some really good commercials. In fact, Foot Locker is making better commercials than Nike, I dare say. Hard as that is to say.
That's crazy.
Because Nike's not doing a lot of funny. Foot Locker.
I think a lot of those are collaborations with the shoe companies because they're using shoe company guys. So a lot of those are collaborations between Foot Locker. But credit to Foot Locker for getting people in that creative environment.
Right. Well, you've seen Ndamukong Suh and Boogie Cousins are talking about their reputations being unfair while they're accidentally, trampling, a woman in a parking lot who's got groceries on the floor, an old woman who's trying to get on an elevator. And it's a funny commercial.
Yeah, they're cute.
But they buy something, right?
Oh, yeah.
They won't. It doesn't extend anything because their next incident, that's not going to buy them anything.
Right. Yeah, and they're acknowledging their negative reputation, which is a starting point.
A lot of people are saying J.J. Watt. I don't know if it would help him or not. J.J. Watt not taking himself so seriously, kind of mocking.
Okay, but I don't. Do people have a problem with J.J. Watt? You have a problem with J.J. Watt, but I don't think people in general. Like, I have a problem with J.J. Watt. I think J.J. Watt tries very hard to be the mythical creature you want your sports role model to be. But everyone we talk to says that's the actual J.J. Watt. That it's not like an A-Rod situation where it's insincere. That J.J. Watt is kind of like a fireman who's interested in public relations.
Wait a second. A-Rod's insincere?
Whoa!
I've had to rethink J.J. Watt because you're right. Dominic Foxworth spent time with him. Said he's a really nice guy. He's exact, and he laughs, and he's funny, and he says he's exactly what you say.
You're a fraud. I'm going to have to rethink. You've been trying to figure out a way to attack J.J. Watt the last 2 days, and you haven't. Yeah, he checkmated you because there's flooding in Houston, and
he's made the hurricane all about himself. But I'm not going to do it. I am not going to do it.
No, he has raised almost $1 million or more than $1 million.
Right. I'm not doing it.
You were saying things in private that can't be said publicly.
Correct.
So you saying on the air, I'm going to have to rethink my position on J.J. Watt is about as fraudulent as anything you've ever said, and a resume that is complete with counterfeit. Like that's.
I'm not going to argue back.
But I'm saying, are you saying I've had to rethink my position on this is just laughable.
Right.
I mean, you were mother bleeping him by text the other day just on my phone.
Yeah, I was. Last night. I'm not saying it on air. I don't care.
No, I'm not asking you to say it on air. I'm not asking you to say it on air, but I'm
Mike's
saying...
already mad at me, man.
No, hold on. I'm not trying to get you into...
If you'd like to help the victims of Hurricane Harvey, please go to redcross.org.
Yes. Redcross.org is how you help.
Right.
How do you feel about J.J. Watt, Cody?
See, every time you're setting me up again.
Cody, we just did it last segment. The clock is in
co-hosting. Occasionally, we're going to solicit your opinion.
I'm gun shy.
Greg,
I'm gun shy.
Greg, we just got you with the clock. The clock is at the end of every hour. It is not every 10 minutes.
I like J.J. Watt. As a player, personally, I've never met the man, but I think his reputation is clean. I mean, I think he's great. What's not to like him? See, unlike Stugotz, I don't find him to be disingenuous at all. I think what you see is pretty much the real deal. And what I see is favorable.
I'm not going to say it then.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Let's get into what Greg Cody just said, which is the idea of J.J. Watt's reputation being clean. I want to get into this conversation as it relates to Sharapova. In fact, Mike, can you play the reckless speculation sounder so I can have some room to move here, please?
Time to throw away all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
You're good.
Gary, we'll put this on the poll. Would you be surprised if J.J. Watt were cheating? What happened? I'm just saying.
I ain't saying anything.
He's physically stronger than everyone in that sport. That's weird.
Can't believe you did that to J.J. Watt.
Don't do that today?
Don't go there.
Okay.
Guy's doing so much good work.
I wouldn't do that in general.
Well, but we're not talking about his hurricane relief.
That's fair.
If you'd like to help the victims of Hurricane Harvey, please go to redcross.org.
All right, let's do this conversation another day. You guys are...
Well, it's reckless speculation. Actually, we're good. We're fine. We're under that umbrella, so I guess we can talk about it.
No, that's fine. We'll do it another day. We'll do it a more appropriate day.
Enjoy somebody unless they give you a reason not to. Down here, Stanton's got 50 home runs. In the deep background, you hear all these whispers, he's going to be on steroids. You know what? No.
Is that how they say it?
Yeah, they say it
They
like
do,
that.
yeah, when
It's
you
kind of
deep
a
whispers,
whiny
yeah.
kind of a, you know.
Oh, steroids.
Poo-poo, you know. But,
let's
no.
go
Go ahead.
hit 50,
Wait a
go
minute.
ahead,
I'd like to
Elm.
do the show with that guy. Can I have, yes, instead of you, I would like the co-host today for this moment to
love
be
this.
just that guy. Okay, so
You would really get tired
all right,
of that.
no, okay, but I won't just yet. So let's
Like
just
deep whispers, what
yes,
you're, kind of.
whatever.
What?
This
Okay.
guy. Let's talk about this. Let's get this guy's opinion on Giancarlo Stanton has 50 homers. He's leading the sport in home runs during what has become a rejuvenated home run age in baseball.
This guy is 50 home runs, right? You know, he's got to be on. You know, he's clean. You know, he's got to be doing this. He's going to find out later. We're going to find out that, you know, he's been dirty all this time. He's doing steroids. You know, he's having 50 home runs. The next guy's got 37. Really? Come on.
It's really an unpleasant person to hang around.
Yeah, it's just I'm a terrible person. I suspect everybody. You know, I'm on steroids.
It's just not fun to be around him, though.
Oh,
He really
man, my wife hates me. You know, speaking of my wife, I mean, don't get me started.
That guy.
All right, very good.
I love this guy.
I hate him. I hate that character, but that's the end of that character. That character is now finished.
Just so we're clear, J.J. Watt poll, we putting it up or taking it down?
Time to justify our unreasonable salaries.
I had to ask.
Take advantage of this deal that Metro PCS is running. I'm admitting the timing's bad on this. We weren't actually making fun of the flooding, and we're not making fun of anything in Houston. We are kind of making fun of J.J. Watt.
Don Batard.
Greg, what'd you give the Niners?
I don't do the instant grade thing.
Well, I mean, that's the next obvious step up for you since you're the mock draft champion. Now you need to be the grading champion.
That's a step down.
Stugotz.
Kuiper, by the way, gave the Dolphins a C+, which I thought was a little bit harsh.
What would you have given them?
I probably would have given them a B.
You were 30 seconds removed from saying you don't care about draft grades.
I don't.
This is the Don Lebatar Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Greg Cody of the Miami Herald in with us today, as he is every Tuesday, scared of the clock, playing defense against good content and the show. Want to ask you guys this question. Many years ago, Michael Lewis became a famous author, and Moneyball became a best-selling book, and then a movie with Sandra Bullock, because Michael Lewis was able to explain the concepts. I'm sorry, I just messed up with Blindside and Moneyball. But Moneyball became a movie with Brad Pitt and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Right.
And
what an incredible range by Sandra Bullock.
The subject matter was dense because basically it was a movie, and all the participants in the movie didn't understand how the book could become a movie. It was a movie about exploiting market inefficiencies. But basically, Oakland was winning baseball games without spending money in a salary cap sport, and Michael Lewis explained it in a way that connected with people in a huge Hollywood way.
Right. If you watch the movie, basically all Scott Hatterberg. He's the reason.
Scott Hatterberg is sort of
because he walked.
Yes, exploiting a market inefficiency. People weren't finding value in walks at the time. Batting average was still something that was being measured instead of the more accurate measurement of value, which is how few outs do you make. And so the walk is as good as a hit, regardless. It seems obvious. The thing that I'm jumping off to, though I've explained it poorly and meandering, is the idea that right now in football, America's most popular sport, there is a team that is winning and nobody has any idea how it is they do it. Like, we are all confused at how it is that the Patriots can make all of their players so disposable that they can win the Super Bowl when Tom Brady sits out 4 games. They can win the Super Bowl when Gronk is out for a long time. That all of their players seem to be somewhat interchangeable, except maybe the quarterback position.
Right.
And what I want to ask you guys, as it relates to the Matthew Stafford contract, he's now going to become the highest paid player in the sport, is how do we have at the top of sports a team that's winning and we can't really explain it? And furthermore, I would say that one of the ways that they're winning, one of the Moneyball things that they're doing is they find value. They don't overpay anybody. And in a salary cap sport, that matters. It matters that you're always letting guys go before you have to pay them. Mike was just telling us. They did it last year with the linebacker they sent to the Cleveland
Jamie
Browns.
Collins.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they did it with Darrelle Revis. They let him go after his good year. But Mike was talking about the wide receiver. Was it Cooks, Mike, that
Brandon
they signed?
Cooks, yes.
Yes, right.
So he's about $800,000 this season, and that jumps up to $8 million and change next year. And given their history, you kind of feel like Brandon Cooks isn't going to be there next year.
Right. You are left to wonder that, right? You're left to wonder whether or not Cooks will be there when they have to pay him $8 million.
Well, what I'm left to wonder, though, because Michael Lewis wrote the Moneyball book, and in doing so, he had been a great author for a while, made himself famous, made himself be able to do any project because he explained things that can be hard to understand in a way that was good storytelling and eventually became a movie. Sure. And what I'm asking you is, when is the right author going to get his hands on what the hell the Patriots are doing? Because we've got in our most popular sport something that's confounding everybody as to how it is that they exploit market inefficiencies. Who is going to get close enough so that we find out, A, specifically how they do it, and B, is one of the things that they're doing that is being undercovered. They'll never give the Stafford contract. And it matters in a salary cap sport that at every position you have what you think is value. And the moment they become too expensive is the moment they lose their edge if they start paying those people.
Right. Yeah, they're very strategic in all of their decisions and moves. And they're not afraid to be unemotional. You know, Vince Wilfork all of a sudden is a little
Richard
too old.
Seymour.
There's countless examples.
Done.
Right? There's countless examples.
And just now,
Ty Law.
I mean, you lose Julian Edelman for the season. To many teams, that would be almost catastrophic. To the Patriots, you're like,
you don't know.
Fill in the blank.
Well, no, they slide Chris Hogan over to be Julian Edelman.
No, he's not going to be. Is he going to be?
He had 2 touchdowns the second Edelman went down.
Edelman's not really a slot receiver. I think you're doing that just because he's little and white.
Yeah, I probably am.
Right.
And Hogan's tall and white, so I don't make him a possession.
Brady takes up 13% this year. Will take up 13% of their total team salary cap. And to compare that to a team like, I don't know, let's say the Lions now with Matthew Stafford. He will take up over 16% of their total salary cap. One of them is not Tom Brady, though.
That's right. That's right. Aaron Rodgers is, what is the number on Aaron Rodgers? 18% of the salary cap. And
Aaron Rodgers is nearly 18%, but they haven't been good, as you pointed out.
His team has been less good since he got paid because he's got fewer players that they can pay.
I mean, it's very simplistic, but doesn't the answer start with the Patriots have what could be the greatest coach and the greatest quarterback of all time, and they've enjoyed extraordinary continuity with those two guys.
But the quarterback was a 6th-round pick. The quarterback was not he's not anybody that anyone would have thought is the greatest quarterback of all time until they made him the greatest quarterback of all time. And then they made Jimmy Garoppolo be someone that they could win with. And it makes you wonder, can they do it with anybody? And if they can, how? What do they know that no one else knows in the sport? When's an author going to get a hold of it and be able to tell us some of the secrets?
An author did. You familiar with Ted Wells? He wrote a book on it.
Really?
Oh, the Wells Report. Yeah. You want to know? There's a movie that was made. Roger Goodell burned it.
Yeah.
Don Le Batard.
You can't have fun when you're old?
Stugotz.
Look at me. I'm having a ball. Balling it.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Greg Cody of the Miami Herald is in with us today. He has a Back in My Day. We will get to it in moments. He's happy with it. He put up a selfie on Twitter last night of himself smiling because he takes more selfies than an Instagram model. And in it, he said, when you didn't have a Back in My Day, but all of a sudden you like the idea. So he's got an idea, and we all look forward to hearing that Back in My Day.
Yeah, I wouldn't oversell it if I were you.
All right.
Only because I liked the idea probably more than the execution of the idea.
Okay, very good.
Did you have a few beers in you when you liked the idea?
You never know.
No, I kind of do know. I kind of do know. It's late at night. You're out of several beers.
Several. I mean, he said a few.
Right. I want to ask you guys this question before we get to the Back in My Day. Is there anything else quite like that in popularity or entertainment? Anything quite like the Patriots, where something is hugely popular and everyone who likes it looks at it and says, how the hell are they doing that? Don't we usually have the answers for things that are wildly successful?
Despacito?
Don't we? Don't we normally have the answers? To me, honestly, one of the great mysteries of my lifetime, not just sports, my lifetime, is that something is allowed to exist at the top of our most popular sport, and all of us are sitting here saying, yeah, 100 catches, Edelman, whatever, they'll figure it out. Right. It's like, that's not normal. Like, they lose Gronk, they lose Brady, and we're like, right. Oh, they win the Super Bowl still. Anyway.
Packers lost Jordy Nelson with Aaron Rodgers, and people were freaking out.
I mean, you're not allowed to just lose Edelman, and everyone is like,
No matter who they lose, it doesn't matter. Jimmy Collins was a Pro Bowl linebacker. They let him go. No big deal.
Interchangeable, man.
But what I'm saying is, what else is like that? Somebody, give me an example of something that's hugely popular, something that everyone is interested in, and we don't know how it's successful.
Imagine Dragons.
Time now for Greg Cody's Back in My Day.
Excellent.
And now, it is time to take a trip down memory lane. Here's your guide, Greg Cody, with Back in My Day.
Water! Ha. Raise your hands if you remember water. No, I mean regular, ordinary, classic old water that poured out of your tap into your glass and down your gullet. It was refreshing, fine, perfect, I'd say. The one essential ultimate drink and enjoyed for pennies a glass. Now we're playing taps for the tap. Water as we once knew it is dying, murdered by our obsession for what's next, our mistaken belief that everything can always be improved upon. Water now is bottled water, spring water, artesian water, flavored water, antioxidant water, carbonated water, all glorified designer versions of the original, and all at great cost because companies know the gullible will drink it up. Folks, there are three things that should never cost money: air, sunshine, and water. But now you go into an upscale restaurant and they ask if you want sparkling or tap, except they say tap with a condescending sneer as if you'd be getting liquid, cloudy, and yellowish straight from Flint, Michigan, likely with something mysterious floating in it. No, tap water's just fine, please. Thank you, I say. Sparkling water. Who in God's name convinced water it has to sparkle? What's water got to be happy about? It's water. Waiter, I not only don't want my water sparkling, I want it sedate, morose almost, aware of its modest place. I think the designer trend may have started with Evian, which fittingly, of course, is the word naive spelled backward. Now one of the trendy waters is Voss, the so-called artesian water from Norway in the cylindrical bottle with the silver top. Well, guess what? Norwegian TV has reported Voss has the very same source as tap water from a municipal supply, contrary to its snooty marketing and big price. Walking around with an expensive designer water is akin to wearing a perfume called pretentious. Get back to basics, people. Amble into your kitchen. Put your paw on that spigot. Pour tap water into a glass. Save yourself hundreds of dollars a year. Be every bit as healthy and tip a pitiable smile every time you see some poor sap buying designer water instead because advertising told him to. I'm coming out with a new line of T-shirts that depict a simple, ordinary glass of water and the words tapping it. I'm Greg Cody, and that's how it was back in my day.
He was drunk.
Tapping it.
I need some help here, Mike, because
hammered.
I believe that the best way to do a job is fearlessly, and I feel like Mike Ryan today is just filled with uncommon fear. And were you afraid that when he went to water that he was going to do something flood-related or Flint-related? What were you worried about?
Well,
I just saw the fear sweep across your face because you don't trust him, and I understand why you don't trust him.
Our show is very dangerous always at all times, and especially when there's national tragedies out there or national news, we're not a good listen on those days.
Water.
I know. You did fine.
You were fine.
But I just saw him get scared because he thought you were headed to a place. And I'm just curious, did you think, what were you scared of there, Flint or flooding? What were you scared of?
I was worried about flooding, and then I guess I left the back door open for Flint to happen.
Okay. But I'm just curious.
Well, he's scarred from the J.J. Watt.
But he got yes. He's scarred from the J.J. Watt thing. But I'm just wondering though, like it. So is J.J. Watt exempt from criticism today of his personality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Guys, it's just a week. We can handle the week.
Right.
He is doing a good deal.
Praising J.J. Watt.
I know, but I'm not down on J.J. Watt. I'm not the one with the. I don't think that Stugotz is representative of the audience as a whole.
You asked
in terms
if he was
of how
cheating.
he feels about J.J. Watt. Well,
It's
that's
not
a
the
different
day.
conversation.
It was under reckless speculation, too, and you were good.
Okay.
Dan, it's just not the day to ask whether or not he's taking steroids.
You shut up.
Here's the thing.
You shut up.
Here's the thing about J.J. Watt and cheating.
I can't believe you did that.
Possibly cheating. Hold on a second.
I didn't do anything.
Hold on. That's more in keeping with, I don't think that it's possible for me to feel shocked by an athlete trying to gain any kind of edge. And it was more of what we were talking about with Sharapova, where at this point, I find it hard to believe anybody, like I feel really bad for the innocent who aren't cheating, who get incorrectly caught cheating, because they've got no chance in this environment of, I just assume everybody's cheating. It's what I assume. Because whenever I'm faced with seeing a bunch of things where competitionaholics are going against each other, trying to win and always trying to gain an advantage in a way that sometimes a safety will cut off his finger because he wants to get on the field. If you care that much, you're probably going to check the pharmacy out.
Yep.
Anybody, though. I'm just talking about everybody.
You have said there's not a single person, not a single athlete where if we discovered today they were taking steroids where you would be surprised.
Not for me.
Right.
I'm saying that right now everything's so contaminated in sports that anybody is in play on this.
Really?
And I'm not even doing it physically. I'm talking about everyone. Pedroia, everybody. Edelman, everybody.
I mean, Mike, would you be surprised if Altuve was tested positive?
You would be.
You'd be shocked?
D. Gordon got 50 games.
Yeah,
You surprised by that?
I was surprised by D. Gordon.
But I'm saying if D. Gordon,
But now you're armed with D. Gordon. You have that information, so you'd still be shocked?
Until I did some research and realized D. Gordon weighed 30 pounds heavier than he did a couple seasons prior, even though he's still tiny.
Guillermo Mota, go look at him. I think they got him twice. He's made of straw.
The only proper answer this week as to why is J.J. Watt so big is because his heart is
fair enough.
humongous.
It really is.
That's
and
why.
it pumps out more blood.
That's why. That's right.
Great American.
That's totally accurate. What you're saying there, that is the reason that J.J. Watt is so great. If you took J.J. Watt's heart out of his body, he would weigh as much as a fetus. But his heart is that big. Mm-hmm. And so that is what we should be celebrating.
This week.
The heart of America.
The last couple of days.
You let me know when we can get back to normal programming, please.
Can I get an announcement? I would like an announcement on that. Can we have some sort of official? I want something to go off where my father says, okay, it's okay to criticize J.J. Watt now. I want it officially announced around here.
I got a lot of pent-up things.
I know you do. I got all of them last night on my phone. I know.
He's turning red because he's holding them in.
I got them all. I got a private show last night. Him ripping J.J. Watt's charitable efforts. It was amazing.
Don Le Batard.
That guy's an idiot. He's not smart at life. He's not smart at books. He's not smart at people. He's not smart at interesting radio. He's not smart.
But that person has listened to the show every day for the last 6 years.
Should stop now.
Stugotz.
I wonder, though, if it's on us.
Not on us. We're great. Awesome.
Best hour ever.
Yes! It's been our best hour in 6 years.
Yes.
Double middle fingers to you, idiot moron Jocko. Woo!
That hour just won a Marconi. What do you think of that? I don't even know what a Marconi is.
Really?
You ruined it.
We had a flow going.
We had it going. That guy's
Pasta, right?
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Greg Cody of the Miami Herald in with us today. Mike, were you able to find that promo that I thought was awful that you were alleging was good? An ESPN radio promo that a couple of different things bothered me about it. It was overdone, and then the ending really bothered me. Let's listen to this together and just put this on the poll. Do you like this ESPN promo, yes or no? Who's the voice at the beginning? Do you know Mike Ryan?
I don't know.
All right, it's very heavy-handed.
This is a cat who has been fighting since he was a baby. His father was a fighter. He is a guy who has never lost. This is Prince with a guitar in his hand. This is Michael Jackson on the dance floor. This is one of the best of all time. And now he's fighting a guy who's never fought a professional fight. If he loses to Conor McGregor tonight, boxing goes to sleep for good.
Oh, the echoing at the end. Why was there a heartbeat in there?
And it is all over in Las Vegas tonight. The fight that had everyone talking ends in a 10th round TKO. This went exactly as scripted or planned by Floyd Mayweather.
McGregor is a stand-up fighter. He's undefeated in the octagon. My job is to go out there and fight, and that's what I did tonight. To be in the sport 21 years and to make over $1 billion is truly a blessing.
Last fight, absolutely?
Yes, last fight, absolutely. So all you young guys, don't call me out. I'm through. I'm an old man, and I retire now.
Congratulations, Floyd.
Thank you, ESPN. I love you guys. Continue to do a great job.
That at the end. What is that?
Not needed.
What is that? Self-serving fat.
That's the reason the promo was made, baby.
That would be my nickname if I was in a baseball uniform the last couple of days. Self-serving fat.
That's a quality promo, man.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh,
that's
fantastic.
Radio, man. That is sports radio.
The voice at the beginning, by the way, is Myron Metcalf.
Wow.
And I maintain anything is better with that that sound effect breaking. We could get Greg Cody's Back in My Day about water.
No, but can we get that sound? Hold on a second. Can we get that sound?
Are you saying it would make it good?
Hold on, Mike. I want you before the end of this segment, Mike. I want you to get that sound, and I want to do Cody's character, whining, complaining character. I want the whining, complaining character before the end of this segment because I dispute what you're saying, Mike Ryan, that you can make anyone good with that sound behind it because the heartbeat does help. The echoing voice helps. But how gratuitous was that? Floyd Mayweather telling ESPN it did a great job because nobody this week asked Mayweather any hard questions about all the domestic abuse in his past. ESPN, you did a great job.
Once you get that sentence, you decide to build a promo around it.
Okay, so that's what we're doing? That's what we're doing now. Yes. ESPN self-congratulating.
Right. Hey, we got a quote. Mayweather thinks we're great. Told us to keep up the good work.
Of course he did. He's happy with everybody. He just rummaged around in everybody's pockets. Easiest fight of his life. I want to get to this Ezekiel Elliott story in a second, too, because Jerry Jones is sitting here saying, Mike, let me know when you have that sound so that we can do this promo with Greg Cody's bitter, complaining character. How would you describe this character to the audience that's just joining us now, this character that was just developed earlier in the show?
I have to remember what the voice was. I've lost the character.
Really?
Wow. It was a complaining, bitter,
like an old curmudgeon who's miserable about everything and questioning everything.
50 home runs. Yeah. I'm sure he's on steroids.
I was inspired by what I would consider to be like a complaining New York sports fan,
all right,
quite frankly.
We'll go to him in a second. But Jerry Jones is now saying there's no evidence on this. This Ezekiel Elliott thing is going to a hearing.
Right. I mean, the NFL did a 13-month investigation. I'm certain the NFL would like the Cowboys to be happy and would like one of their young stars, Zeke Elliott, to be on the field. They did a 13-month investigation, and they felt like there was evidence.
So you found it, Mike? You ready to go? All right, so you're of the belief that anything is better with that sound behind it. So do you have the cadence down like you don't remember the character?
Yeah, I'll get it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he need his hands?
Yeah, something like that.
All right. Go ahead.
What are they suspending Zeke?
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cody on ESPN Radio.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Football season's almost here, and DraftKings, the leader in one-week fantasy sports, is giving you a shot to be crowned the first-ever fantasy football billionaire. Draft the perfect lineup week 1, and you could win $1 billion. Just use code HUDDLE to play in DraftKings' free Week 1 contest with $100,000 in total guaranteed prizes. And if you draft the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. It's free. Why wouldn't you try? DraftKings.com. Code HUDDLE. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Don Le Batard.
Let me go around the shipping container filled with frightened refugees. What do you imagine Pitbull smells like? The bidding starts with facts and info.
I think he smells like my dad's cologne.
Guillermo, what do you imagine Pitbull smells like?
A combination of sweat and like agua de violeta.
Oh, nice.
Stugotz.
Roy, what do you got there?
Drakkar Noir.
Mike, what about you? What would be your guess on what Pitbull smells like?
Fireball.
Thank you.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
786-456-4837 is the telephone number. And if you want to talk to Ron McGill and have something other than questions about your puppy, I would appreciate it, because there are a lot of questions here about people and their puppies, and I don't want this to turn into a vet segment. I want it to be an animal segment. I don't want this to be the call that you make to your vet. 786-456-4837 is the telephone
Can
number.
I have the first question then?
Yes.
Ron, has a lion ever eaten a jaguar in the history of this planet?
Not that I know of, but, I don't know if everything has happened. It would have to have happened in captivity because, of course, the jaguar only occurs naturally in tropical America, and lions only occur naturally in the eastern hemisphere. So they don't swim across the ocean. They would not normally meet.
I thought you might say that, but what about in ancient Rome? The gladiators, they would just entertain
what
people.
about Greg Cody's claim that he's seen a lion eat a jaguar, even though, they're on different continents?
Yeah, well, if Greg Cody claims to have seen that, it would have to have been a forced confrontation by some sick individuals, and I would terribly and profoundly condone it. I mean, condemn it.
But who would win a hypothetical bout between?
Wow, that really didn't go the way that you expected it to there, Ron.
Well, the one who would win it in a hypothetical battle would be a lion because he's exponentially larger than a jaguar.
Is that right?
But you condoned it.
I know, I condemned it. I corrected myself, Dan.
You
You've never made a mistake? You've never said the wrong word at the wrong time by mistake? You've never done that, Dan?
Nope. It would never happen to me. I'm always right.
Yep.
Wow.
Matt, you're on with Ron McGill of Zoo Miami. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Ron. I was wondering if gorillas can catch human diseases.
Yes, absolutely they can. It's what's called zoonotic diseases. There are different things that, they can catch a cold. They can catch any of the common, viruses that a lot of humans carry. And on some viruses that humans can carry and actually carry without real horrible repercussions, they can be fatal to something like a gorilla. And I think I've used this example before, the common herpes virus that people get in cold sores on their lips. That common virus that people can carry all their lives without any horrible effects other than these cold sores that go away could be fatal to a gorilla.
For those of you who don't know, we're in South Florida, we're in Miami, and so therefore we have been through a bunch of hurricanes. And so, Ron, I'm wondering here, based on your experience, what do you think is happening? What are the steps being taken at the Houston Zoo?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have been in contact with the Houston Zoo. They're doing actually remarkably well. The big challenge is getting staff there to help take care of the animals just because the routes of transportation are being, compromised significantly, so people can't get there. But fortunately, the animals have done well. The zoo itself is not flooded, so that's on a positive note. Staff is getting there. They're in good shape. There's some other places that are not in good shape. The International Crane Foundation for things like whooping cranes is based in Rockport, and they're gone. I mean, the whole place is destroyed. I just saw photographs of it. It's nothing. It looks like a bomb went off there. So they're going to need some real help there.
Can you tell the people, because I don't think people understand what these hurricanes do and what these floods do. Can you just tell people what,
sure.
And I know we've covered this ground, but what Hurricane Andrew did to your zoo?
Well, Hurricane Andrew, the best way I can explain it is like God came through here with a 25-mile wide lawnmower and just ran over us. That's exactly what it looked like. It looked like a bomb went off here. But Hurricane Andrew was a much different event. Hurricane Andrew was a wind event for us. The wind destroyed things. I mean, it was like, again, a huge tornado just came through the zoo. What they're facing out in Houston is a different type of event. It's a rain event. It's a flooding event. And the people of Houston now need to be very careful because you're going to have things like alligators and snakes that are going to be... The alligators have now got a whole new freeway system that's opened up to go from one place to another to all these flooded streets. Things like snakes are going to be like people. They're going to be looking for that higher ground. So all these snakes now are competing for the same thing people are competing for, dry ground. So you're going to start seeing concentrations of animals in places that are not normally there. People need to be aware of this. But keep this in mind, guys. There's no such thing as a snake that's going to chase you down. There's no such thing as a snake that's going to attack you. These snakes are just looking to get on dry ground. Do not approach them if you see them. Be very cognizant of where you're walking now. There are rattlesnakes in Texas, a considerable amount of them. So these animals are going to be looking for that high ground. As far as alligators go, they might be having access to areas they might not normally have access to. I wouldn't worry about adults, but I worry about small children and pets, especially if you're splashing around in the water. Keep in mind, these animals, they're instinctive. They react to stimuli that's outside. In other words, an alligator's not going to see a human being and go, oh, I'm going to go get him. No. But they'll sense splashing water that's like a distressed animal that might be drowning or dying in the water, and they're going to go to that. And if it's a small kid or it's an animal, they don't know to tell the difference. They're going to go at it. They're going to bite it. They're going to think it's food. So understand that. People in Texas now just got to be much more aware that these animals have great access to different areas that they didn't have access before. You might find a freaking alligator on the front porch of the Shell gas station where it was never there before, and you might find snakes up in your terrace now, or maybe even getting up close to your roof where you're hanging out trying to get away from the water. So just be aware, keep your distance, and understand these animals are not knowingly going to attack you.
There's also this dramatic video that sort of went viral yesterday of these floating red ant colonies. All these ants, they bind together to float.
Yes, those are horrible, and they will sting the heck out of you. A lot of them are fire ants, the same type of thing we have here, and these animals, exactly what you described. They create a bridge with their bodies, and they actually keep themselves afloat that way. And if they come onto your body, they're going to sting the heck out of you. I would be so much more worried about those flipping ants than I would about alligators and snakes, because they will, anybody who's experienced these types of ants do this one thing. What they do is they wait for a bunch of them to get on your body, and then it's like all of a sudden one guy says, now, and they all bite at once. If the first one that got on your body bit you right away, it would give you warning and you wouldn't get attacked by the rest. But what they do is they release a pheromone. They wait till they're all like in place, and all of a sudden one goes, now, and everybody bites at once, and that's when it becomes brutal.
Wait a minute. Yes. What? They send each other a code so it feels like a giant animal is biting you instead of just one animal?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a pheromone that they release at the same time, which is a signal, okay, attack now.
Oh, look at the fake Conor McGregor with his tongue out yesterday. Now he's just shocked and horrified and scared back there. If this happened in Miami, Ron, I could see all of this happening in Miami and it being worse because of where we are.
Absolutely.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's this is a huge wake-up call. I mean, we talk about rising seas, we talk about sea levels, we talk about climate change. Listen, guys, this is all a huge wake-up call. What is happening in Houston could easily happen here and make it exponentially worse.
Where could it not happen? Where is it least likely to happen?
Why?
Because in Montana, you have much higher levels of land. You're much, places like that up in the Northwest, these are areas that are much higher elevations from sea level. That's not to say they don't have other.
To talk to Ron McGill, the telephone number is 786-456-4837.
Also, I can't remember the last time a hurricane hit Montana, but I'm going to go ahead and say not in these last few
but
centuries.
There are other natural disasters. You talk about floods. I mean, a hurricane doesn't have to be a hurricane to create a flood. You talk about the 100-year floods. These hit the breadbasket of the United States.
I didn't know before seeing this. I did not know that Houston could flood like this.
I was surprised as well.
Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I was aware that Houston could flood. I mean, just because of where it's located. I mean, that whole Gulf U area there, from New Orleans all the way down to Galveston, that's just yearning to be flooded.
Yeah, see, because New Orleans, New Orleans being famously below sea level, like that one I understood. I did not think that Houston was capable of being flooded this way. Regardless, because all the questions here are about your dogs, and I don't want questions about your dogs, let's go ahead and do play-by-play on whatever video it is that we've sent you. What do we have today?
I'm putting it on now. It's a cheetah. Oh, it's a cheetah's stalking. Oh, it's three cheetahs, three guys. I don't know what they're looking at. Oh, it's an ostrich! It's an ostrich! These cheetahs are going to try to take on an ostrich. Ostriches are the largest bird in the world, can run pretty fast, but most importantly, those legs can kick. Okay, one cheetah's decided he's going. The other two waiting behind, watch, see what happens. Okay, the other two behind, he's going in the gallop. Oh, now he's going after a male ostrich. The male ostrich got the feathers, he's going full gallop. Okay, he's running right alongside, but he's not making the kill yet. He's not going to jump. No. Oh, now they're coming against the female. The male outruns the female, so the cheetah stays behind and goes, oh, it's the female. Oh, now the other cheetahs are coming on there. Okay, he's running. The female's got her wings wide open. They're running side by side, but he makes the lunge. He's on her butt. He's riding her. Oh, my God, it's a cheetah riding a freaking ostrich. Now the other two cheetahs are coming in. This is fantastic. He's riding the ostrich, but she's not going down. All of a sudden, she goes behind some trees. The other ostrich goes, oh, boom, she's down.
Oh, wow. Tremendous call,
All I want to do is say zoom, zoom, zoom. and a boom boom.
We're delayed, so we're watching it now on TV.
But the ostrich does look like a giant turkey.
It does.
It looks like a giant turkey. And,
fast
man, wait a minute. What happened? Did the man just run by the woman and leave the woman to get eaten? Is that what happened? That's exactly what happened. That man is the Stugotz. That man ostrich is the Stugotz of the day. Just ran right past the woman saying, look, I don't have to be faster than the cheetah. I just have to be faster than my wife.
Yeah, I totally bail on Abby.
Oh, my God.
Tostitos. I can eat a whole bag of them. I have. 2, 8, 16.
Oh! Don Le Batard.
Greg Cody of the Miami Herald does an annual gala.
The PFPIs.
It's a gala, man.
What does PFPI stand for?
Pro Football Predictions Incorporated, but we just say PFPI.
Stugotz.
Greg Cody is the only one wearing a suit and largely the only one taking this seriously.
No, I think just about everybody but Christopher took it seriously.
That's not true. No one takes it serious.
Don't you dare.
So Greg Cody's wearing a suit. He's handing over a trophy to a family who don't want his trophy, don't want him driving.
He's just now realizing all this.
It just dawned on him how stupid all of this is.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Watching on television now, our friend Marty Smith. He's in the Alabama weight room with their strength coach. It is fairly amazing to me, the access that he's gotten, because clearly Alabama football likes Marty Smith.
Well, Nick Saban likes Marty Smith.
They're allowing him into every crevice of the facility in a way that I do not associate with that program. Last time I saw him on television, he was wearing, and looked ridiculous, a full Alabama uniform.
Right.
And he's going to join us in 10 minutes. The Marty Party's going to join us from Alabama.
He's kind of like a chummy salesman. He's such a nice guy. He does a really good job of getting the people that he's covering to like him, and he gets very close to them.
He's likable.
He's excellent.
Yeah, the Southern accent is disarming. It makes him seem friendlier.
No, he is friendly, though.
But he's
very nice. He's very kind. Gamma, put it on the poll. Did you have any idea that ants were strategic planners that worked in unison to attack you?
I mean, no idea. It was crazy.
You saw how hard it was for our group to sing Talking Sandwiches as hard as they can. You saw how hard it was for us to organize 5 people to sing a ridiculous WFAN jingle.
Ridiculous.
And these damn ants. Listen to this story here. I was playing golf one day and must have stepped on a fire ant hill while stepping into a sand trap. I hit my shot, picked up the sand rake, and I raked the sand trap. All of a sudden, it felt like my forearm and hand were dipped in boiling water. I looked down, and there were hundreds of fire ants on my arms. I didn't feel them get on my arm until they sent out their attack signal. I had welts from their poison on my arms for months. I did not know that ants had an attack signal.
I didn't either, man. But I've stepped in a pile of red ants, but it is so painful. My ankles.
But I didn't know they all bit at once. I thought that they just bit at different times, and that's what you were feeling. Not that they were coordinating. Look at this sucker we've got here. Everybody, 1, 2, 3, now! What is that? I had no idea any of that was possible.
I mean, it is called an army of ants, right? Maybe we should have
known.
Yeah.
Right?
Ant colony.
Yeah. Yep. I remember, though, man, I was walking my dog, I stepped in the pile, and I wanted to go to the hospital. I came home and told my wife I have to go to the hospital. I was in that much pain, and she just started laughing at me. I didn't go to the hospital.
You did call 911 on a frog. I mean, your
It was a big one. It was a bullfrog.
Your pain threshold is 0.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're okay, though.
Thanks.
Chris, why were you pointing at your father? Your father's also afraid of frogs?
No, he has a frog story from when he was in college, I believe, where he opened his car door and there was a frog in it, and what happened?
I've gotten out of a traffic ticket, by claiming that there was a frog loose in, where the feet go.
That is so smart.
That is almost so unbelievable that you have to believe it.
Was it true?
No, it was not true. But it could have been.
Great lie.
Heady play.
Great lie.
It also works with a lizard.
Spiders.
Spiders, too, yeah. Spiders, yeah.
Wow.
I'm guessing a snake, right?
That's a life hack.
I was on the reservation at the time. I pulled that with a Seminole policeman.
Can't do a snake because
not a detail that was relevant in any way. I don't.
Why can't you do a snake? Because the cop might.
Totally useless detail.
It's not in there.
The phrase "I was on the reservation."
I mean, it's totally useless detail. So Ezekiel Elliott here is going into his hearing, and Jerry Jones is saying this issue is complicated because there's no evidence. And I actually want to talk about this because I find everything that's happening around this to be fascinating for a number of different reasons. One, Ezekiel Elliott is going to have very few allies, and they're only going to sound like Jerry Jones. All of Ezekiel Elliott's allies are going to be people who benefit from what Ezekiel Elliott does well. So they're not impartial. The cause, we can all agree, is a good one. Sure, be super punitive with people who hit women. It's a scourge, it's a plague, and we need to correct it. But we are in such a bad place here, Greg, where because Roger Goodell's investigations have lacked credibility, because football has decided to become a leader on this issue, even though it's in over its head in deep water that it is not equipped to swim in, you now have a situation where Roger Goodell is incentivized to make these penalties so stiffer than they would be under normal circumstances, because he knows they're going to get knocked down by a union that's going to fight him on him. So this is what's actually happening here. And does anyone think this is right? Does this feel fair, given the cause? Because maybe it does to you. That Roger Goodell is handing down penalties that are stiffer than even he wants to hand down as the iron-fisted commissioner, because he knows they're going to get knocked down once the players' union that does not trust him appeals it and gets it knocked down. So he's going to lose an appeal, but he's going to get the suspension that he wants anyway. Does anyone else find that problematic? That the commissioner of the league is incentivized to overpunish?
I'm okay with it. What you're saying, just so we're clear here, is he's going to give Zeke 6 games, knowing that it's going to be down to 4 games, 5 games, which is what he actually wanted in the first place.
It's what he would have done if his investigations didn't have a credibility problem. He'd just give him 4 games.
I don't see a problem with that. Do you, Greg? Like, I'm okay with the NFL.
The greater good is a good one. The greater good is a good one. I just don't think the greater good is actually being solved. I don't think they're doing anything to cut into domestic abuse with stiffer penalties.
And maybe you're right, but I will say this, like, the cops don't always get that right. There's a lot of cases in which, the female does not want to step forward and say anything. And the NFL, you have to give them some credit here, Dan. They made a big mistake. I understand what you're saying. Now they're going to over-penalize. But they did a 13-month investigation. They're armed with a lot more information than we are.
Yes, agreed. But the part that I find problematic is they've botched these investigations, and because they now are incentivized to even be firmer because of how incompetent they've been in the past.
But you don't think if they did a 13-month investigation and nothing came back, don't you think Zeke would be playing football week 1?
I don't know.
That's the fine line.
I don't know what the evidence is here when Jerry Jones is saying there is no evidence.
Well, I'm a little uneasy with the fact that the league is punishing somebody who was never arrested or charged, and I'm also uneasy with the league appointing itself as a grand jury or a district attorney's office and launching a year-plus investigation lacking the foundation of an arrest or a charge.
The part that I find problematic, dangerous, even though I understand that in this instance Ezekiel Elliott makes for a very bad martyr, is what Greg Cody just said, that the NFL is in a position now where, despite botching this to the highest levels in a way that had us calling for the commissioner's job, they're doubling down. The league is now coming in even more aggressively after having botched it so egregiously that we all wanted Roger Goodell fired.
Don Le Batard.
Come in here and tickle. Hurry up and tickle him till the end of the segment.
Dr. McGillicuddy said this could be bad for my heart. Could be bad for my heart.
Stugotz.
I'm having a heart attack.
Tickle him more. Tickle him more. Right to the end of the segment.
Heart attack in it.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Marty Smith going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Hall of Fame running back Eric Dickerson will sign a one-day contract with the Rams on Tuesday and thus officially retire with the organization 24 years after his final NFL season. And finally, scientists say Uranus is probably filled with giant diamonds. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Look at Marty throwing his head back, laughing. Marty Smith, the Marty Party, just laughing. He's in an Alabama uniform.
He looks good in the Crimson Tide,
yes,
man.
He does.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
Roll Tide!
All right, you were
it's
on
time for ball, baby!
you are at the practice field in Alabama. There are tackling dummies behind you. You are in full uniform. You're wearing gloves for a reason I don't understand. You got a football in your hand. What do you
grip?
Okay.
All right, so let me explain to you why I'm fully dressed out in pads. And in fact,
because you're Marty,
I have one of these too. We'll get to that in just a minute.
Got a helmet.
I got a helmet too. So I'm fully decked out because just a bit ago on SportsCenter, we did this really interesting sort of demo for this technology they have here at Alabama and several big-time schools called Catapult. What that is, it's a GPS device basically that can track speed, velocity, impact, all of these different measurements so that the staff can keep tabs on the players, what they're doing, when, and how. So we thought it would be interesting if I dressed out fully and they compared my ability as a 40-year-old father of three to some of the greatest Alabama football players currently on the team. Now, I know this is going to impress you guys. In full pads, I ran 17 and a half miles an hour in the 50. That's pretty good for a 40-year-old father of three. Now, just for some context, Alabama's wide receivers and defensive backs, they run like 24 miles an hour.
Okay.
We don't need to get into that.
How about the linemen?
Encroaching upon their positions.
Who are you
boys.
faster than? Who are you? Are you faster than their linemen?
I actually did all right. So they had this chart, Danny, that was like, I think it started around 12 miles an hour and went all the way to like 25. And they have like this freak scale that's 21 to 25. So I was sort of close to that. I don't know. What's I can ask the guys here. What's like a normal measurement for a lineman? Oh, 17. So I'm as fast as a lineman,
You are
fellas.
as fast as
Get
a fat
some of
guy.
that, baby.
Congratulations.
Get some of that, baby. I don't know what you're talking about. You're as fast as...
Get some of that, lineman.
All right.
You don't want none of this 165 pounds, boys.
All right. Can I get you to race? Are there any linemen around there? Are they in class? Is it possible to get you right now to race an Alabama lineman? No.
There's no lineman, but I could take off running.
Okay,
Just
no,
run.
we'll do that in
I
a
want to see
second.
him run. I want to see him run.
Hold on.
Right.
Perhaps at the end of this segment, you will take off for a bomb. Is there someone there who could throw you a bomb?
Yes.
All right.
Nice.
Jonathan Wiley, my ace producer.
He's always there.
He's got the wing warmed up.
All right.
He's ready to throw me a bomb.
We will
Put the
warm
helmet
up
on.
the wing
I'm gonna
for
put the
4 or
helmet
5 minutes.
He's going to run, catch passes.
Right, and we're
anything else, tackling.
We're going to have to do play-by-play here for the audience because only a few people are watching this on television. But what have you learned, Marty? Because you have pretty extraordinary access to the Alabama team.
I have, and that's quite a blessing. You know, Coach Saban really does, and his staff, they open the doors to us, and we come in and really get to show off his program, and they are just chomping at the bit, man. They're ready to hit another team. And, boy, they're going to face a good one in Florida State. Florida State has a ton of weapons. Very rarely do we see this type of matchup, 1 versus 3, on the opening weekend of college football. And trust me, everybody in these doors over here to my left is aware of that and ready to play. Thing about Alabama that never ceases to amaze me is how they reload. Just look at the defense. They sent 7 players, 7 players from last year's defensive unit to the top half of the NFL draft in April. And all they do is reload, all right? It's unbelievable how they do it. I don't know how they do it. The consummate example of that is defensive end Deshaun Hand. Here's why, all right? Hand, in 2012, I think it was, maybe 13, class of 2013, was the #1 recruit in the country, all right? The #1 player in high school in this nation. He's never started a game here. He'll get his shot on Saturday night against the Knowles.
I'm curious here, Marty. Some people are writing in. What is you being a father of 3 as if you've given birth to the children and have anything
she
to
did
do
all the
with,
work, Marty.
Have anything to do with your 50 speed?
The stress! It's the stress, man.
That's right. That's a good point.
Anybody who's a parent out there understands. Nothing ages you like being a parent.
All right.
Those little snots. You got to tell it. You trying to raise them right. Make sure they're not talking back. Make sure they're respectful, that they have manners, that they're not throwing food and pillows and all that mess around the house.
I agree.
It's stressful.
Right.
That's why I said I'm a father of 3.
I agree with all of that because I have kids. I don't think it affects your 40 time, though.
I mean, because you made it sound like you just gave birth and you ran straight out of labor right into your sprinting form.
I get some of this.
Look, he's
got a jersey with my
M.
name,
Smith on the back of his jersey. All right, M. Smith, number 9.
Yeah!
All right. Let's go ahead and do this play-by-play on you running out for a bomb here. Let's go ahead and do this. Is the wing
here we go.
Is the wing
Wiley, you ready?
All right, Wiley's
fellas,
getting ready.
Here we go.
Wait a minute.
All right, hold on.
He's putting on the helmet. Hold on, though. Before you go, hold on. All right, we're going to be able to see all of this.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Can you see it all?
Yes,
yeah, we got you. We got you.
Right now, we've got you on the crouch. Yes. Here he goes out for a bomb. Number 9, M. Smith. It's thrown deep. Oh, don't run into that ladder.
Oh, nice catch.
I got so scared.
Nice catch.
Look at him.
He's still running.
He's still running. Where's he going?
Yeah. Yes, he's still running.
He went over the shoulder.
He's running. He's Forrest Gump in that movie. He's left.
In that movie, Forrest Gump.
I had coffee with my colleague half an hour ago.
He's coming back winded.
I'm putting the mic back on.
Oh, yeah, put the microphone back on.
I mean, Wiley is deadly accurate.
Yes, that was a great pass.
Wiley's got a chooch, man.
Oh, I was so afraid. Marty, I was
complimenting your arm.
Marty, I was so afraid you were going to run into that ladder, Marty.
Too elusive, bro. Too many skills on this body for that.
Way to go, M. Smith.
I'm a little out of breath, I'll admit.
Yeah, we can hear it.
I'm a little bit winded.
Yeah.
Really?
You were great, though.
I love you. Marty Smith, I love you, man.
I love you so much.
I love you.
You're the best.
I love
buddy.
you.
Where can people
Watch this. Watch these skills. CB.
All right, let me go.
The ball.
Oh, he kicked it.
He spun the ball and then kicked it. Marty, when's the next show? When is Marty Smith's America? When is the next? Quit pounding on your uniform and your name. When can people check out Marty Smith's America? When's the next one?
Wednesday night, September 5th, 9:30, ESPN2.
All right.
We have 2 really cool stories.
All right.
One on the return of UAB football after a couple years off, and then we hung out with Brandon Marshall for a day in New York for a very enlightening conversation. I am out of breath.
You're the best.
Yeah,
You're the best. Thank you, Marty. Outstanding ovation once again. Marty Party is undefeated on the show. It's always been great. Every single time he's been on with us.
Don Le Batard.
Who are the most overzealous fans?
I think Taylor Swift has the most overzealous fans. She had to be pulled off a stage at Madison Square Garden, I believe.
Swifties.
Yeah, Swifties.
Yeah.
Stugotz.
Perry Como's got some real fans as well. They're crazy, those people. Comoites, I think they call them.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Many of you are claiming that you knew that ants struck in synchronicity with an organized, biting, stinging strike, and I believe you to be liars. Would you be kind enough, Stugotz, to update the polls, please?
Yep, I would. If you give me a second here.
At Le Batard Show is where you reach us on Twitter.
Why are you laughing? What are you looking at?
I mean, this is kind of what we do at the end of the show. We update the polls.
I know. I didn't update them. I apologize. I was busy eating wings during the commercial break. I'm getting there, though. I'm almost there. I'm ready. The Twitter poll is brought to you by Upside. Now say big on travel and get a big gift card every trip you buy. You love Upside.com. That's Upside.com. Will you sometimes call your childhood telephone number? 82% of the audience said no. I know. I'm with you, Greg. I do it, too. Have you ever seen that before?
I don't believe that you do it because that means someone might answer.
I'm going to give
it's on the Joe Harper list for the next edition of Stu Lies.
Go ahead. Not only do I call that number, and not only is it the same number, I'm not going to give out the address, nor am I going to give out the phone number. I have gone to my old house in Port Washington, New York, where I grew up, and I've knocked on the door, and I've asked if I can look around the house. Mm-hmm. And they've allowed me to do it. Now, they've upgraded the house big time. They did a much better job with that house than my mom and dad did, but they've allowed me to do it.
We drive by 1440 all the time, by the way. Christopher will tell you that.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing as calling the number. Now you have to have, if someone picks up, you have to have the conversation with that person.
Well, I talked to them about the house. Yeah, ask them how the house is doing, how the neighborhood's doing. I do.
I call the number and ask for me. I do. Is Greg there? Who? Greg. He lived there back in the 60s.
Go ahead and...
I have proof, by the way. I have pictures. There's a big rock in the front of my old house, and we all used to wait by the rock to get picked up by the school bus, and my daughter has sat on the rock and taken pictures recently. I did that in my dad's car last summer, and then I made an illegal U-turn and blew out all 4 of his tires. Ran right over a curb. And how about this with my dad? I somehow got into
that either. There's no way. Nobody's ever had an accident where they've blown all 4 of their tires.
I
don't believe. I don't know, on a curb.
I'm telling you right now. Oh, it was a big brick.
I blew 5 tires. I had a rare car that had 5 tires on it.
Now, how about this? Even blew out in the trunk.
The spare blew up too.
I called the tow truck.
So full of it, man.
I called the tow truck.
Why
I get it towed to a place.
syllable that comes out of your mouth be the truth? Why not one damn syllable?
I'm telling you,
why are they all wrapped in counterfeit Ponzi schemes?
You're gonna feel like a fool.
You did not blow all 4 of your tires.
You're gonna feel like a fool when my dad verifies all this, or my daughter, or my wife for that matter.
He birthed him and his mom.
Oh, how about this move?
Speaking of this liar.
Well, speaking of my dad, okay, so I call the tow truck. I go in the tow truck. I get the car all the way to the tire shop. I call my dad. I explain to him what happened, and I said, I'm getting 4 new tires put on the car. Can you give me a credit card? And he started laughing at me. He said, you pay for it. How about that? I mean, my dad making his son, who's got a ton of bills and is putting 2 kids through private school and sleepaway camp, sticking me with the bill for his tires.
Wait a minute, this wasn't as a child? This is as a, wait a minute, this is as an adult when you have kids?
Last summer.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You think your dad should pay for something that you did? I thought you were doing it as a teenager.
No, last summer. And I was almost late for the Dead concert.
How are you not ashamed to call your dad and ask him to pick up the expense as a 43-year-old man?
Well, I mean, how about you put some air in those tires? Because I'm telling you, there's no way what I hit, there's no way that all 4 should have blown out. They were all blew out. And that's on my dad. Wear and tear on those tires. And he should pay for them.
Blowed out.
Whatever.
Threadbare.
Which stigma is worse, steroids or recreational drugs? 63% of the audience said steroids. Is Greg Cody self-absorbed? 77% of the audience said yes. Did you have any idea that ants are strategic planners that work in unison to attack you?
Hold on a second. We'll update the rest in a second.
All right.
I'm 4 tires. I still don't believe this. I don't believe it. I refuse to believe it.
Well, Greg, do you believe me?
No, you can't say it. You can't say his name.
This was the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.